Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Russian Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank, the IS3a, or the Unskinned Fatherland. It's a tank that is generally okay. Yeah, it's probably okay, but it's just worse than everything else. And it did get buffed in the Blitzkrieg Reforges, the ones from like a year ago now, or even longer than that maybe. It was the first one before they kicked off their Tanks Reforged thing that they were doing. And it did get buffed in that. But the thing is, they buffed it, which made it, you know, a little bit nicer to play. But then they also buffed pretty much all the others ones that compete with this tank and made them, even though they were already better than this tank, you know, made them even better and thus still better than this tank, right? So this tank received a load of buffs, but then the Glory IS5 received a hell of a load of buffs, which is exactly needed. It received like loads of buffs to its armor, its gun handling, its DPM, all that stuff, and terrain resistances as well, which generally made it really mobile, have pretty decent armor and a really good gun and really good DPM. And they buffed the Scourge's DPM as well, which then just made it so that, well, the buffs that you're about to see on this tank were great for this tank and definitely brought it up a little bit. It just made it so it's like, well, yeah, you buffed this tank, but it's still now just worse than the others, which is kind of sad, right? And in a bottom tier matchup, this tank can be a right pain because it's slow, because the gun handle is derpy. Although you do have 270 heat pen, it struggles at times to go through because it's fairly slow velocity, and a lot of the time you just hit space armor and it just goes, ha, no, I'm not penning that, sorry. And it's really annoying. But you do have good shell velocity on the APCR. So anyway, what buffs did the IS3a get? Well, they buffed the accuracy during rotation and movement, which went from 0.26 to 0.24, which is a small buff really. The roof armor went from 20mm to 30mm, so it's not overmatchable by every gun that it'll ever see. It now has to be a 91mm caliber gun or higher. And they buffed the turret ring armor, which is nice because it did tend to get pen in the turret ring every now and then, which was kind of frustrating, especially at the front of the turret. The turret rotation speed went from 22 to 30, which is a massive buff because the turret rotation used to be abysmal. So 30 degrees a second is great. 0.46 accuracy down to 0.42, which is definitely nicer, and 3.4 aim time down to 3 seconds. Made the gun handling better for sure, because the accuracy at 0.46 was always horrific for this tank, and it was always really painful in that way to play because of it. And the aim time from 3.4 to 3 seconds is also massive. But the thing is, when they buffed other tanks, they also knocked, like the standard Tech Tree IS3, they knocked its aim time also down to 3 seconds, and it was already more accurate, and it gave it slightly better DPM as well, which made this tank had just the same DPM, and that has AP and APCR. It's also more mobile, and it has the same armor profile. And they made it so that the roof is not overmatchable by most guns it can see, more even than this tank. So it's like this tank still is a mile behind all the other tanks that got buffed with it. It's still not the worst tank in the universe, it's just, it takes a hell of a lot to get the best out of it. And yeah, it can be fairly frustrating to play, especially when you're bottom tier. And it really does struggle when it's bottom tier, as you're going to see in this game a little bit. So in terms of a crew that I run on the IS3a, I do run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Off-Road Driving. Off-Road Driving to make the ground resistances as good as possible to try and help this poor mobility this tank has. It's just a little bit slow and it's a little bit frustrating in that way. And then also I run the gun perks because the gun is still absolutely trash, and I want to make it as good as humanly possible. In terms of equipment, I run rammer, vert stabs, and optics. Vert stabs obviously make the gun as good as I can possibly make it. Optics to be able to spot for myself, and a rammer to make my DPM as good as possible, because the reload is pretty decent for 390 alpha gun on a heavy tank at 7.9 seconds, as you've just seen. So in this game so far, we've managed 2 shots of damage, 113 assistance, and we had that badger come over, and I immediately went for the tracks every single time, because unless I'm firing heat, I can't pen the badger, and even with heat, I might still struggle to pen the badger frontally. So I wanted to try and track it and make it so that other tanks that could see him could pen him, but we got a little bit of assistance out of it, but really not much at all. Unfortunately, we bounce again on the side of that chisel with our APCR. Really annoying because we're just not avoiding the space armor. Then the Badger slaps a Hey Chi round at us, which knocks us down now to a one-shot if he were to pen us, same as the chisel, which is kind of awkward. The chisel bounces off our gun, which is okay for us. We're up to 1100 damage, trying to see if we can get a shot into the side of the chisel, which we do. We get a nice shot through the side, and he gets shut down, because we actually tracked him as well, which is decent. So we're up to 1500 damage with 453 assistance, and now I'm like, okay, let's try and get ourselves into a position where we can try and assist. But we are detected right now, and I'm like, oh, don't do it, you Des. Oh, okay, he didn't shoot at me. I'll just aim a little bit just to shut him down, and that's what happens. I'm not quite sure why he never shot at me there, because I was in a position where he could definitely have shot at me. But we'll take it. Thankfully, we get unspotted just as we're coming across, and it's like, oh god, that's a T-34 who is still looking directly at us. That is kind of worrying. I track him in place, and in fact, it must be the medium tank behind me is still spotted. We were trying to go for a shot into the upper plate there, but it actually went wide and hit his tracks and tracked him in place. But we do manage to get the shot through his upper plate there. And we're just going to keep moving up now because Randy's in quite an aggressive position where he's spotting their team up. And I want to try and get into a dip where I'm safe and not just sitting on top of the ridge where they'll be able to shoot at me. We're loading the heat because the Type 5 Heavy got spotted. And we're not going to pen the Type 5 with our APCR whatsoever. And with the heat shells, even with the heat shells, we're probably not going to pen the Type 5 Heavy, unfortunately, unless we avoid his tracks with the heat on his side. Because even with the APCR at this distance, we're probably not going to pen the side of a Type 5 Heavy, even when it's properly flat on. It really will struggle with the 221 pen that it's got, which is really frustrating. It's a really frustrating tank to face in this thing. A lot of the heavily armoured tanks are, but that one finally managed to go through the Type 5 Heavy. It actually must have avoided the space armour and gone through the side. If you're shooting at the Type 5 Heavy, you are best to shoot as high up on the side as you can and try to avoid the turret, because that'll avoid a lot of the track spaced armor that is, and the heat will probably go through. So now they've got two tanks left. They've got the artillery and the heavy tank. The artillery just misses us there, the CGC, but we managed to get over it. Oh, just as we're about to aim the 279, he actually ammo racks the CGC. Really unfortunate, but it is what it is. We come over, we pop a heat shell at the 705A's track wheel, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to track the 705A and then get up behind him. But it didn't track, because why not? But we are behind him, and our whole team is in front of this guy. And what usually happens is they just turn to face you and just go, you, behind me. And thus they, you know, turn to face everyone else. But we actually damaged his ammo rack with a shot, and I thought, what happens if I shoot him in the same spot? Well, if I shoot him in the same spot where I damaged his ammo rack, I blow the ammo rack. And we finished with the victory. The 2 kills, 4.9k damage, really padded up because of that ammo rack, 743 assistance. Juicy bit of credits there, that must have been with a op. 2.3k base XP, a really great game for the IS3 Auto, although a lot of that is padded up because of that ammo rack on that 705A for 1600. Yeah, it was really quite nice actually to go behind that 705A and have him not turn around, because what tends to happen is you go up behind someone and they go, oh, a tank's behind me, and they, even though they can see there's 6 tanks in front of them, they'll turn to face just you. And then they'll give their ass and make it so that you can't pen them, but they'll give their ass inside to all of your friends, who will then get the free farm that you really wanted by being up behind them. It's really irritating when people do that, because a lot of the time, except for when we ammo rack them, a lot of the time you're best just to stay facing the 6 tanks in front of you instead of the 1 tank behind you, because that 1 tank behind you may keep penning you, but more than likely you'll manage to conserve a lot of your health from the guys in front of you, manage to get like that extra shot or 2 off at them instead. If you turn around, then you just give the game away instantly, right? And we're on the second game. This time we are top tier, unlike the last game. And we are on Hidden Village. Hidden Village, we're going to go to the heavy tank Broly spot at G4, where we can go just get stuck in, use our pretty decent DPM and gun at close range, which is where this tank wants to be. And, well, really, we can't get hull. Well, we've got 5 degrees of gun depression, right? So we can try and get hull down, but it's going to be a bit of a struggle with the gun depression. But there's multiple ways we can go and attack this flank. I mean, if we're on top of that little ridge, we can use 5 degrees of gun depression, because you don't really need that much to be able to use that position. Or you can just go round the side of the thing and then get shots at them that way, or you can go in the low ground and you don't have to really worry about gun depression. So the Inferno starts poking out. I take a pot shot at him, but I can't actually pen that guy's turret because the Inferno's turret is absolutely fantastic. And I decide, you know what, I'm not going to take the high ground. We're going to go around the corner and see if we can get a shot into this Astron Rex. Which we do. We get a nice shot into the back end of the Astron Rex, which damaged his engine, and I think actually tracked him as well. And we get another shot into his back end, which tracks him in place. He's actually burnt his repair kit, so I'm kind of... Someone else shoots him, I'm kind of hoping that, I could get a shot into him and finish him off. I was hoping with a shot there from the other person that put damage into the Astron Rex that maybe it retracked him, but it didn't quite work out that way, and we just didn't quite have the DPM enough to be able to shut him down. But we're pushing aggressively. Their team has sat, except for this Inferno and his friend, their team have sat behind the rocket that is currently in front of us, which is a death sentence for the team on this flank. Because if you sit behind this rock, you completely give up on anyone that's pushed up where the Inferno and the heavy tank have gone. Like, our team has all pushed aggressively up into that ridge line, and that means that now I can push up to this rock, stay safe from those guys on my right, and then start attacking the guys that were already here, which means you get complete crossfires, and you're completely safe. If you attack this flank, you have to push up to that ridge line that I'm shooting where this Minotaur is right now. You have to push up to that ridge line. If you sit behind this rock next to me, and you will just give up this position completely. And again, you can start getting crossfired and circled, all that good stuff that is good for the enemy team, but not you. I cannot implore you enough. Push up. Don't sit behind the rock. A lot of people do sit behind this rock, and then they just get punished for it, essentially. And then you lose the 2 or 3 tanks to the 5 or 6 that did push up to that middle area. So we're just looking for the kill shot into this Minotaur. Oh, take a pot shot there that didn't go anywhere near. I'm not quite sure why we took that shot. It's what it is. We're up to 3k damage so far, and it's like, okay, hello, Mr. TDs. I'm going to pop a shot into the Bolsig there for 433, which is quite a nice roll. The Scorpion G was coming around to see if we could get a shot at us. We go for the drive wheel to track him in place. Doesn't track him, naturally, as you shoot a lightly armoured tank destroyer there in a drive wheel. Doesn't work. Is what it is. We've now got the shot into the Bolsig, which I decided to just take the risk that he could pen me, and I'll be able to get the shot into him and shut him down. But unfortunately, we didn't actually roll high enough. He's trying to awkwardly get back. Oh, that shell just misses, unfortunately. We can't quite get the shot to kill him. He ends up poking around to try and shoot somebody else, though. And the gun derps again into the ridge layer. We should have aimed properly. We shouldn't have taken that shot a bit more snappy. Just really unfortunate with the gun handling to not shut this Bolsig down so far, but we do manage to shut him down. Now we've got the Scorpion G in front of us. We're loading HE because we know we can pen the Scorpion in the turret, and, well, let's just meme with HE, right, and get some big damage rolls. He pens and puts us onto 84 HP, which is kind of awkward, and I'm sitting there going, actually, does this guy reload first? Oh no, this is kind of awkward. It's fine. I was expecting to kill this guy instantly by just shooting him through his hull, but somehow we just didn't do anything to him whatsoever. But fortunately enough, because we were face-hugging him, he only shot our turret and just didn't pen, which we kind of got lucky. We just went a bit blasé into that Scorpion, to be honest. Lots of HP that we shouldn't have, and then was really awkward in that last little bit of engagement. They only have 2 tanks left, though. There's a tank destroyer and the artillery. We are detected, which tells me that the tank destroyer is somewhere directly in front of us. And I'm saying to Turkey, there is someone directly in front of you at like B5, 6, somewhere along that area. Because I'm detected, so that's the only place that could possibly be seeing me. The Charioteer bounces off me. I tried to snap the shot into the Charioteer. It doesn't go anywhere. Well, I couldn't see where it went because we weren't aimed into it properly. We just kind of RBRT'd it. And I'm just keeping my aim that way, saying I'm ready to fire at him whenever you spot him, Turkey. As long as he gets spotted, I'll be able to shoot him. As long as he doesn't go behind any of the buildings and stuff like that over there, we'll be okay. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine. I'm like, Turkey, he's poking out. He's just spotted me again. And there we go. He gets spotted by Turkey. We RBRT the shot straight through the Charioteer. We only have heat rounds left at this point, and he gets shut down by our team. There's only 1 tank left. It's the artillery. It's in that dip at B1. I'm thinking, can I get there? The likelihood is probably not. But we can always live in hope. And if we just keep moving, we can try and see if we can get there. But our team is swarming towards him. My only hope is if he actually just decides to YOLO out and give us a free shot. But the Tiger 131's in there, the CS53's in there, and then Turkey manages to somehow ninja the kill. But anyway, we finished the game with a nice total again for the IS3a. We finished with the victory. 2 kills, 5.4k damage, 275 assistance. Ace Tanker, the high caliber, Spartan medal for blocking a shot while we were low health. 2k base XP. A really great game for a tank that you just don't really see anymore, the IS3a or the Fatherland in general. You don't really see them ever. And it's because they're okay. They're okay tanks. They're not bad tanks, they're okay. It's just that there is tanks like the Glory, the Scourge, and the Tech Tree IS3 that are just out there and just better in general. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.